Engineering Radio and to our show, Pride and Ownership, the Love for the Job. I'm your host, Chief Rick Lasky. Just had a great trip back home up to the suburbs of Chicago, the Algonquin, Lake in the Hills area, the Union up there, the local, what a great group of guys, Matt Berg and Danny and them, and spent a Saturday doing Pride and Ownership, and just it was fun to be back home in that area. And again, another great visit with great folks. And Matt, can't thank you enough for being a wonderful host. And after meeting your mom, I can tell. Well, I don't know what the hell happened to you, buddy, but your mom's a class act. What a great lady, and but I could definitely see where you get it from, pal. Hey, a couple quick things here. Keeping tradition alive. This is our second year doing the symposium here in Louisville. It's the Pipes and Drums and Honor Guard Symposium. We're holding May 14th and 15th of this year. If you're looking for any registration information, you can get that by doing one of two things. You can go to our Pipes and Drums website, which is lfdpipesanddrums.com, lfdpipesanddrums.com, or you can contact our Bomb and Arson Chief, one of our drummers, Terry McGrath, Chief Terry McGrath, at 972-219-3595, 972-219-3595, and Terry can get you squared away. And the last thing is we're getting really close. FDIC is right around the corner, man. April 20th through the 25th. Over 28,000 people last year. Chief Halton, Diane Feldman, the whole group do an incredible job. It's the greatest show on earth, and it's just a great time to be out there. And I think the evenings, being able to visit with folks, and just network and just talk shop and just be around brothers and sisters like that. It's just absolutely incredible. So, hey, speaking of a true fire service brother, I'm so excited. We've done some great shows, but this one I think is going to be one of the top or the toppers here. My good brother, Chief Billy Goldfeder, is going to join us today. And most of you, if you don't know who Billy is, then you've been sleeping under a rock somewhere. But Billy's well over 35 years in the fire service. He serves as the deputy fire chief of the Loveland Sims Fire Department of the Southwest Ohio, and he's blessed. And I'm going to get him to talk about his boss in a few minutes. His chief, Otto Hubner, is just he's a Mason. He was actually one of my sponsors on my petition for my Masonic lodge here. So he's as Dr. Harry Carter would say, he's a brothers times two. But Billy, if you were to look at Billy's bio, and I'm not going to embarrass him before he gets on here, I'm not trying to, but when you look at someone's achievements, and first of all, there's too many awards to list here, and he would tell me to shut up and not go into those because that's not what he's about. But he was recognized. He was honored with an appointment of Honorary Battalion Chief with the FDNY. We're going to talk about that. He's on the board of directors of the September 11th Families Association. Biggie here for our good friend Ron Sarnicki, who's going to be one of our keynote speakers at the Keeping Tradition Alive Symposium here in Louisville. The executive director of the National Firefighters Foundation. Billy's on the board of directors with that. He assists NIOSH with their Firefighter Fatality Investigation Prevention Program. The ISFSI, another great group headed up by our brother Eddie Buchanan right now, president. The instructors group was Fire Instructor of the Year in 2004. International Association Chiefs Presidential Award 2005, just incredible. But there's one we're going to talk about in a little bit, and I want to mention to it because I want him to talk about the association. He received one I know is very close and dear to his heart, the 2008 Firefighter Cancer Support Network Dallas Jones Memorial Award. We're going to get to that because that whole group is incredible. He's the host of a radio show, Through the Smoke, that just gets literally tens of thousands of listeners. I get the honor of working with him on the FDIC advisory board. He's the creator, he and his partner of FirefighterCloseCalls.com, The Secret List. I'm telling you, if you don't know who Billy is, where the hell have you been? But hey, brother Billy, welcome to the show, pal.
It's a pleasure to be here.
Well, Billy, first of all, I got to ask you, the FDNY Honorary Battalion Chief Award, how'd that come about, pal?
Well, it really came about as a shock. I remember when I got the phone call, and really what it is the FDNY, a lot of fire departments have honorary chief appointments, but the FDNY is something to be taken very seriously. It's a whole process you go through, and there's a swearing in and all that kind of thing. But I got it based based upon a lot of the stuff I do, like through the secret list and firefighter safety, and I offered some assistance during 9/11, and I think it was just kind of a culmination of that at the time, of that, and following that, I was called and brought in and made the appointment, and it is a great honor, and
oh my God,
a lot of times the people who financially benefit the FDNY are recognized with Honorary Battalion Chief status, because there's some wonderful, wonderful people who donate money to the different foundations, the FDNY Foundation, Burn Center, things like that. But mine was a little different than most. I'm not a millionaire. I'm not one of those rich guys. But
hey, I do want to mention, though, something, Billy. I've got a book sitting here from 1907. It's the Fire Department, FDNY, it's New York Fire Department's their assignment to duty book from Manhattan. It has other box cards and assignments. And your name's not in this one. I know it's 1907, but it's not in this one, actually. I think it's the only place I didn't find your name. But I'm sorry, buddy. Keep going, because I know that's quite an honor.
I was still in probie school, I guess. But so I was called by the this was literally the week that Commissioner Scapetta took over from Commissioner Van Essen, and along with Chief Nigro and Assistant Chief then, or Chief of Operations Sal Casano, I was appointed. So it's cool, and it's a great honor. The badge sits up on my wall here in the office, and I like doing what I'm doing. Any of the awards or recognitions, they pop up, but it doesn't change how I do things and what I love doing, and that's just trying to help out. And really, your book and your attitude is what I am all about. I love the job. I've always loved the job. I just spent the longest trip I've ever been on. I just came back from almost 3 weeks on the road. Did an amazing amount of seminars. Ran into you and John down in Florida. Actually, we didn't spend much time, but we were just a few blocks from each other. And you gotta love the job. And I was talking to a captain, and let me get away from me for a minute and talk about you and stuff that you've done, and the love for this job. I was talking to a friend of mine who's captain of my old fire department in Long Island, Manhasset Lakeville Fire Department. I was talking to one of the officers who was a little frustrated with one of their members, and this is a volunteer department, but a very big department, doing several thousand runs a year. And he was annoyed with one of his members because his member was real annoyed, pissed off, and kind of blowing off at this captain. And I always ask the question, especially in a volunteer department, well, how active is that member? He says, the guy hardly ever comes around. I said, then why do you even talk to this guy? He doesn't love the job. Yeah, he doesn't love the job. He doesn't care about the department. It's all about him. And that's what you've really done, is you've reignited, you've helped gain focus to people, give them something to hold up, a book, a DVD, a speech, whatever that you're doing, to remind people that if you don't love this job, just, no hard feelings. You can keep the sticker, you can keep the hat until you get your new car, and you can wear our colors. But when you're done, get rid of the colors. Don't say you're a firefighter. Don't wear your jacket. Don't put the sticker on the car if you're not into it. So anyway, back to you, Rick.
Well,
I had to get that in.
But Billy, and that's why I bragged about you. That book is nothing more than just bragging about the fire service. I talk all about you and Bruno and John Salka and Eddie Enright and Jack McCass and Tommy Chevy. The list goes out. Tom Freeman. The list goes on and on of some great fire service leaders. But and we're going to get to this in a little bit too. Because I think between the two of us, we have no problem beating up on people that don't love the job. Because there's a lot of jobs out there, like we said before, where you can go, work in the private sector and just go home and not care about
bread. Go bake bread.
Exactly. Just don't go to Ganella in Chicago. They got the best bread in the world. And if you're going to screw up the fire service, don't screw up my bread factory. But let me ask you, what's it mean to you, Billy, to you serve on the board of directors of National Fallen Firefighters Foundation. We know what you and what Ronnie and the guy, those folks are doing. They're making some incredible headway. We're going to actually visit on those later. But what's it mean to you to be a member of the board of directors of the September 11th Families Association? Is something like that. There's a lot of people, they make donations, they do this, and they try really hard to make a difference. But what does that mean to you? I know you mentioned the tribute next to 10 and 10's house, but Billy, what in a nutshell, and again, not to put you on the spot and embarrass you, what's it make? What does it mean to Billy Goldfeder, Chief Billy Goldfeder, to be a part of that board?
Well, my connection to 9/11 is a little different than some and common to some others. Naturally, as an American, I was just devastated and headed to New York 2 days later to do what I can to assist, and Ohio Task Force was out there and other stuff. But my connection, my most deepest personal connection, and I've got in my office here a cross with all the bracelets of the people I knew, and there's dozens and dozens of bracelets. But I want to tell you about somebody that I knew much more than just know. And I grew up in Long Island in Great Neck, in Manhasset Lakeville Fire Department, Great Neck Vigilant Fire Company, Great Neck Alert Fire Company. They all kind of run together. And I used to hang around the firehouses as a kid and became friends with a guy named Lee Ielpe. Lee was an officer and then became chief of the Great Neck Vigilant Fire Company, and he is a veteran of Rescue 2 in the city. And he was there during, I hate to call it this, but the glory days of Rescue 2 in the 60s, 70s, and early 80s. And he worked with Ray when Ray Downey was captain there. And Lee and I became very close over the years, and have been and still are. Lee, a long story short, Lee lost his son, Jonathan. Jonathan was on Squad 288, and you got to understand, go back a few months prior to that, the Father's Day fire. Now, here's Jonathan, who's assistant chief of Great Neck Vigilant, following in his dad's footsteps, is in Squad 288, following in his dad's footsteps in SOC. And on Father's Day, they responded off-duty to go to that fire when they heard their brothers trapped. That's the love of the job, and they went and assisted. And there was actually a picture of Jonathan and Lee operating at Father's Day, trying to help save those guys there. So fast forward now to a few weeks prior to 9/11, and we're in New Orleans for the I Chiefs, and we're all at a party together. Actually, a friend of ours who has since died of cancer, Lee Strickland, chief of the Manhasset Lakeville Fire Department, me and Lee Strickland, me and Lee Ielpe, Jonathan Ielpe, we're all there for this party, having a great time. And then fast forward now to 9/11. So I wanted your background to understand that these are good friends of mine. 9/11, Jonathan responded on Squad 288 and called his dad and said, "You got to turn the TV on and watch what's going on." That was the last time that Jonathan spoke to his dad, and Jonathan, of course, was killed along with 343 and obviously thousands of others on 9/11. So Lee, obviously devastated by the loss of his son, spent every day at the pile for 90 days straight, along with Captain Vigiano, who lost his sons, and many. There's a small group of FDNY fathers who lost their sons. I've actually got a picture of them in my office. It's really knocks you on your ass. And so Lee, after he recovered his son's remains, had to do something. And Lee and a couple others got going with the September 11th Families Association. Well, this wasn't just some bullshit organization. Now let's fast forward again, because I know we're limited on time today. What have they accomplished so far? Well, probably the biggest accomplishment, other than being advocates for the September 11th families, is the 9/11 Tribute Center, the World Trade Center Tribute Center. While the New York bureaucracy continues to decide what they're going to do, how they're going to build, where the money's going to come from, today, right now, you can go next to Ten House on Liberty Street and go to just an absolute beautiful building next to the firehouse there and spend an hour and visit the 9/11 Tribute Center, the World Trade Center Tribute Center. That is probably the best tribute Lee Ielpe could do for his son Jonathan and the loss of Jonathan. What he did by doing that is not only does the legacy of his son live on, but the legacy of everyone who was lost then and what it means to those. Now, people say, well, I don't want to go there. I'll get depressed. You're not going to get you may get depressed, but you're also going to smile. Yeah, you're going to cry. But it's going to remind you, it's going to bring you back to September 11th and that week, which on one hand was the most horrific week in the history of our country. On the other hand, we never saw such spirit as Americans than we did following 9/11.
Well, and Billy, I a couple of years ago, and we make an annual trip to Manhattan with my wife and my daughter, and we're into, they're into shopping, I'm into going to the theater, and we made the trip there, and I've got a picture of my daughter. We're up on 10's roof at the time. John got us up there, and I was worried, Billy, about how she was going to. She knew I lost some buddies, and she had met a bunch of them, obviously, when they're here and some other places. And, I worried when I saw her crying a little bit, but then, of all things, to hear her say how proud she was of our country and how proud she was of the people that day, and it you're exactly right. It does, obviously, if you're not human if it doesn't tug at your heart, but, if it doesn't give you that sense of pride of living in the greatest country on the face of the earth with some of the greatest people, to see that, and I guess it's kind of a reminder that people once in a while need to be reminded.
That's what it is. I mean, we say we never forget, but we do, and as you say, never forget means never forgetting. We do forget. The flags are not flying like they used to, and the spirit is not what it was. And look, I'm very proud American. My dad came from Poland. He was an immigrant. My dad was part of the Greatest Generation, was shot in World War II. So my family background backs up what I'm saying, what I'm feeling. Everyone listening to this show, anyone who's ever crawled down a hall, even as an administrative member of a fire department, I don't care what you do, any affiliation you have, if you have not been to the city, and if you've not been to the September 11th Family Association's Tribute Center on Liberty Street, you got to go. You need to bring your family, your kids, your mom, your dad. Everyone needs to see it. And as you saw when I put out the secret list last Friday, we celebrated our 1 millionth visitor to the September 11th Families Association Tribute Center, and it's pretty amazing. 40% of our visitors are non-Americans that come from other countries to learn and to understand. It's phenomenal. So that's kind of the story. And then, so they formed this group, September 11th Family Association, asked me to serve on the board of directors. Dennis Smith's on the board. Steve Buscemi is on the board. There's a lot of really cool people on the board who are motivated to do stuff. Many people, Rick, serve on boards and various groups, and they do it to put it on their resume.
Resume makers.
Get the jacket, forget that crap.
Exactly.
Whether it's my role at the IFC with the Safety and Health section, or it's my role with the September 11th Family Association, we need to do stuff, and that's what we're doing. We have a building you can visit, and you can spend time with your family and see the Tribute Center. That shows you what we do.
Exactly. And you're right. And there are, Billy. There's so many people. It frustrates me when, and I guess, I'm very good now. I never used to be at kind of bite my tongue when I serve on some of those groups, those committees, and you see those people sitting there that, when it's time to volunteer, it's time to step up, it's time to do something, they just sit there. But if you're going to be part of a committee, if you're going to serve on a board of directors or whatever, do it the right way and make a difference and be part of something special. Now, I wanted to get to something here. I was out in California doing a program, Billy, and I met this wonderful group of people, and I know they're very close and dear. I mean, this is another one that's very close and dear to your heart. But the Firefighter Cancer support group, the group out of California, I know you received an award for that. They've actually helped two of my firefighters who went through a tough time. I think they even have a DVD. Tell us a little bit about that group, buddy.
It's the Firefighter Cancer Support Network, headed by Mike Dubron. Mike is a Los Angeles County helicopter firefighter, paramedic, and Mike got colorectal cancer probably 7 or 8 years ago now, because he's cancer-free, like 5 or 6 years now at least. And Mike, if you're listening, and I know you will be, apologize for the numbers, but I'll get the message out. Mike realized that when he developed cancer that there was no firefighter support network. Who else do you talk to about what we go through than us? Like it or not, and probably the most qualified people to verify what I'm telling you is city managers. They think we're strange. They think we're a gang. They think we're our own group. Well, we are strange. We are our own group, and we are a gang, so deal with it. And when we get cancer, when we get hurt, when we get good, when we get bad, we need to be able to talk to our own, as well as civilians who are not part of the job, for an overall whole understanding of what we do. And Mike formed this group so other firefighters can connect with other firefighters and their families to help them go through what in some cases may be the toughest job of their lives, the toughest battle, the toughest run they've ever had. I've lost a number of very, very close friends to cancer. Lee Strickland, as I mentioned, former chief of Manhasset Lakeville Fire Department, my alma mater in Long Island. Louis Skeeta, former chief of Manhasset Lakeville. Jimmy Salvamini, and many friends that are cancer survivors still. But my generation, I'm 54 years old, my generation, my group, and my crew from New York, there's a significant amount of us that are dealing with cancer. And thank God, at this point, I'm not. I go for my screenings, I get checked, I make sure I'm not. But cancer is a big deal. And, Rick, if we treated cancer as a line-of-duty death, in other words, let's calculate how many firefighters who are active firefighters die each year of cancer. And if each state had presumption, we'd have 1,000 more line-of-duty deaths.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, 1,000 firefighters annually die from cancer. So when Ron Sarnicki and us and all of us at the Foundation, or the IFF, the IFC, all the various groups dealing with firefighter injury and death, when we deal with 100 or so a year, that's tough enough. When we look at cancer, 1,000 more a year. Now, there's a number of ways that. Now back to the association real quick. The Firefighter Cancer Support Network held a big gala dinner last fall. Jay Leno was the MC. Did just a phenomenal job. He did a 2.5-hour monologue. He hung out and spent time and raised thousands of dollars for us. Obviously did it on his own for no cost. This is a stand-up guy, Jay Leno. And it was packed. 500-plus people were in this. That's all the seats they had. And there's going to be another one coming up, and I'll make sure you get the information so we get the word out. And what they do is raise money so we can continue to support firefighters with cancer. Now, what do? One, they send you a kit immediately when they find out that you are dealing with cancer. And it's basically a support kit. All the stuff you need to know, want to know, and could know about your kind of cancer. They hook you up with other firefighters who've dealt with your same kind of cancer so you can understand what your options are in battling this so you can successfully beat it. And that's kind of what they do. They educate and they support. And the education, of course, is part of the prevention program. So let me slide into prevention. And just a couple quick things, because we could do a show just on this, Rick.
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
Breathing it obviously is an issue, and of course most of us, hopefully by now, you've read the University of Cincinnati study by Dr. Grace LeMasters on firefighter cancer. If not, we have that study on firefighterclosecalls.com that you can look at there under our downloads page. But they looked at the various cancers we get, and I knew breathing was an issue. I did not realize up until a few years ago that the smoke that we're breathing has cyanide in it, and cyanide is poison. That's how they kill bad guys in prison, so it makes sense not to breathe that. As we further dig into it, we learn that overhaul is just as dangerous as breathing it during the fire. In some cases, it can be worse. So what's the answer? Don't breathe it. Zero tolerance. Stop breathing that crap. The stuff we're breathing is not your great-grandfather's smoke. This is carcinogen-filled, hazardous material-packed, petroleum-based products, your sofas, your furniture, your chair, all the stuff that we call allegedly the Class A burning materials in a dwelling these days, and we're just talking about dwellings right now, is all chemical-based. You don't want to breathe that crap.
Well, and Billy, what do you say to the guys? I mean, because I've taken a stance. You know, we talk about change, and I do a program on change in the fire service, and you know, we're going to talk about the initiatives here. We're going to talk about making a difference with line of duty deaths and everything else. You know, I grew up on the south side of Chicago, where I'll be honest, if you wore your air pack there, they harassed you and gave you a hard time. And
Rick, when I got on, we had 2 air packs on our trucks, and they were in boxes.
Well, yeah, I remember one of the guys who's now gone, obviously, said, you know, if we need it, we'll go out and get it. And I'm like,
right.
What the hell am I doing in here? I've had to take, because Rick Lasky formed a very bad habit, and I've had to change. You know, the past few fires were when I go mutual aid, I put a pack on my back. I actually kind of embarrassed to sit there and go, I wasn't wearing my pack at this fire. How stupid is that? And what do you say to the guys that still think that that's? What do you say that they think that that's cool, Billy?
Well, the older guys, and it's most of us, we know someone who has cancer, so we need to talk to them about that. So you educate. First of all, you set policy. What's the policy? Then you educate them on the policy. Then you verify they've become educated on the policy by making sure they understand that there's no question that they're going to wear their masks. And then you have good officers who supervise, and the officer corrects the behavior. If the behavior doesn't correct it, you take corrective action. It's that simple. Firefighters need to be safe from themselves. And when we talk about line-of-duty deaths later, it's the same thing, Rick. And we had 2 apparatus strike each other yesterday down in Texas, not far from you. If the chief of department and the firefighters and the officers involved did not want that to happen, it would not have happened. I mean, put your damn seatbelt on, stop at the red light, we don't have the problem anymore.
Well, and you and I talked about...
Rick, it's the same thing with the mask. If you don't want cancer, wear your damn mask. But it's worse. And let me just keep going, because I'm on this thought, and I don't want to lose it. The other issue is soot. Soot. Now, let's just take for a second. When your hands are chafed, or your wives or daughters or whatever, what do? They put lotion on their hands. What does that lotion do? The lotion gets absorbed into skin to soften the skin. Soot does the same thing. The soot on your face, the soot on your hands, the soot on your neck from your dirty hood. When your body starts to sweat, your pores open up, and this shit gets sucked into your pores. So the soot, which is the off-gas product, carcinogen-filled product that's cancer-causing is being introduced directly in the body. The problem is the younger or middle-aged firefighters feel nothing's going to happen to them because they're healthy. And the old ones say, shit, I've lived this long forever. I'll be fine. And one day you get diagnosed, and now your whole life changes. Everything changes. You know the noise that they make when you play a record on a record player and they slide the needle and it goes, yeah. That's what it is the day you're told you have cancer. The music stops, the needle is taken off the record, and a whole new record starts playing. And that's the issue. And this is what I tell my own guys. This is what I remind myself of. And this is what I talk about when I'm around doing programs and stuff. You don't want this. Hell, you love being a firefighter. So why the hell wouldn't you want to keep being a firefighter as long as possible? All right, so then let's say you have a death wish. Like, oh, I don't mind if I get cancer. I'll be okay. Well, what's that doing to the people whose pictures are in your wallet? Your wife, your kids, your husband, your mom, your dad. So you want to be selfish enough to go ahead and get yourself hurt or killed. But what's it doing to them? So, look, I can talk
shrapnel. It's the shrapnel, Billy. You're hurting more people with the shrapnel.
Exactly. So what's the answer to your guys who don't want to wear masks? You educate them on it. If not, then you make it no choice. You know, sometimes the tail can't wag the dog, Rick. Sometimes we, as bosses, have to remind people that we are in charge. And you mentioned my boss, Ott Huber. You walk in our organization, there is no question, and you've been to our department, there is no question who's in charge. Hey, we have great labor management. Our guys are good. We have good days.
But don't confuse that for like some kind of militant Gestapo.
No.
No. There's you know exactly what you said, Billy. You walk in, you know who's in charge.
But sometimes when we don't want to follow the rules, when we want to do it ourselves, and don't believe in the stuff you and I are talking about, then the militant has to come out in an officer. And it doesn't. We have too many officers in this business that are afraid to confront the troops. Oh, I don't want to deal with it. You know what? Well, don't be an officer. Anyway, sorry, I'm going off.
No, because Billy, that's seriously. You and I sit around, we have coffee, and we talk about this stuff all the time. And I get going on something where I talk about, any idiot can crawl into a burning building, and there have been some that have. It takes courage. It doesn't take courage to really do that as much as we like to think it does. It's a little, you sector C buckers up a little bit, but it takes courage to stand up to somebody at the kitchen table at a firehouse around drill night and say, like today, you used to mention volunteers earlier. I'm a very, very big advocate of volunteer fire service, and as well as the pay. You and I hit on all the cylinders. But if you've got someone that refuses to come in and do the air pack training, or refuses to come just because they've been there, or whatever, you've got a problem that's growing. It takes guts to stand up to somebody at the kitchen table and tell them what you're doing is wrong or what you can do is hurt. Or it's like we're so afraid, Billy. Sometimes, the whole going from buddy to boss. They need their leader on the fire ground. They don't need their buddy. They need their leader. And it's time as a company officer you step up, right?
If you get promoted and you've received a few less Christmas cards the following year, you've been successful.
And you don't have to be an ass doing that. You have
no, that's right. You don't have to be a jerk. You don't have to be nasty. But you know what? You accepted the job. You're a lieutenant. You're a captain. You got to enforce the rules until the rules change. Nobody cares if you think they're stupid or not. You got to enforce the policies. You got to show that loyalty to the same people who promoted you. Now, if the rules are stupid, go through the process and change them. But if the rule is you wear a mask when there's smoke showing, put your mask on and shut the hell up. It just isn't that tough.
And our good friend and mentor, Colin Powell, General Colin Powell, one of my favorite statements is, being responsible means sometimes pissing people off, and that's what it takes. Well, and Billy, that kind of leads us into, well, first of all, I don't want to go any further until I want to make sure everybody has the web address for the Firefighter Cancer Support Network, which is Firefighter Cancer Support Network. I'm sorry, firefightercancersupport.org. It's an incredible website with incredible information. You need to visit it. If you're a chief or a chief officer or a company officer, this needs to be in your favorites for when one of your guys walks in and closes the door and breaks your heart telling them they got something going on in their life, that you need to be able to have this at your fingertips.
And Ricky, also keep in mind, this is not just firefighters. If, God forbid, an immediate family member is going through this, Firefighter Cancer Support Network deals with that as well. Neighboring department next to us, one of the captains, a little 4-year-old, was dealing with cancer. Thank God he's cancer-free right now. But he was stage 3 or 4 there for a while. It was pretty rough. And Mike Dubron and crew are right there for them, too. So keep that in mind.
Well, and we had an incident down here. Billy, we started with the whole scanning and doing the full, there's a place called Viascan down here that does an incredible job, and they set this firefighters 20s, part of the whole department, mandatory physical, which I think is wonderful if you can pull that off. And they found a stage 2. They found a tumor on his kidney that saved his life. And this kid's like, well, I'm not in my 40s. I don't have to go get this done yet or whatever.
That's it.
And he's alive today because he's a testament of being proactive and trying to get something before it becomes a problem. Hey, let's back up a second here.
Sure.
And I get people asking me this all the time, and I wonder this about my good buddies, my pals like you. What got you into the fire service? I mean, and I'm not trying to date you. I mean, we talked about, you started, I think, in '73, but what made Billy Goldfeder want to be a firefighter?
I'm sitting and looking at two pictures on my wall. One is a guy named Dino, and the other name is Lou. Both from the Comac, Long Island Fire Department. Now, I grew up in Long Island in Manhasset Lakeville Fire District. But when I was a little boy, around 4 years old, this guy came to strip our basement floors and re-wax. And back then, they didn't have no wax floors. Back then, it was whatever. And so my parents had a guy come in once a year and do our floors. Well, I followed Dino out to his car, which I remember like it was yesterday. He had a Woody station wagon. And I'm telling you, I can see this like it was yesterday. And he puts his... Now, also, by the way, this was before OSHA. Like, he used to let me ride on the waxing machine and shit, which was really cool. I would hold on to that thing and slide all over the room, but you can't do that today because somebody will see you. So I go back out. I walk him out to our driveway. He puts the wax machine in the back of his wagon, and I look, and there's a leather helmet, there's a bunker coat, and a pair of rubber boots. And I said, "What's that for, Dino?" He says, "Well, we called him Danny back then, actually." He says, "Well, I'm a firefighter." I said, "No, you work on floors." He says, "No, I'm also a firefighter." And that was the first moment I realized what the firefighting was. I mean, I guess I had little books and stuff, but that was absolutely what got me going. Now, and I've never had any other focus on anything else after that. And so here I am. I graduated high school. I was a member of the fire department. Actually, I got thrown out of public school because every time the fire whistle blew, I would want to go see what the fire was. So my parents sent me away to a private school. No kidding. They sent me away.
I got in trouble. Mrs. Humphreys, my 6th grade teacher, when pocket scanners came out, I had my scanner on inside my desk, and she got all pissed because she goes, "Where's that noise coming from?"
Yeah,
I had the scanner. I don't know.
Some spaceship or something. So my parents sent me away to private school, so I focus on my education. And the school they sent me to was in Pennington, New Jersey, which was right next to the firehouse, which had the biggest fire whistle in the world. So it didn't change, and that's all I've ever had interest in. But anyway, so I graduated high school in the early 70s, and I went down to Florida to go to Broward Community College, and I lived in one of the Broward County fire stations down there. And our battalion chief was a guy named Lou Cafone, who was retired of FDNY Rescue 3, and Lou was also from the Comac Fire Department, which I always thought was a cool connection, which the first guy who got me interested was Danny. So I've really never had any interest in anything other than, my second biggest interest is my family, my kids, and all that. And then my third biggest interest is music. As you know, I'm a longtime drummer. But my biggest interest, and I tell people they get a big kick out of me, because here's this 54-year-old guy that's just as pumped up now as I was in the 70s, and I've never lost the interest. I love it. I don't want to do anything else. And I honestly, I was chief of department 14 years. I'm not a great chief of department. I'm a hell of a deputy. I'm a hell of an assistant, because I get to still go to calls. Chief of department, rarely you go to calls in some of these places. You're still a firefighting chief, and there's a lot of them out there. But there's also a lot of suit-wearing chiefs who put their badge on their belt, and they're better off not going to a fire.
Well, when they do go to a fire, those are the guys I talk about that they go out for the big one, and then they take command and they burn it to the ground.
They're in the way.
You know what? And that's what Bruno said it best. He goes, "That's what I created as senior advisor for."
Hey.
He goes, "You could give that guy something to do, yet let the people that run the fires all the time run the fires." So I always get stuck. I pull up, they give me command, because our battalion just want to do the whole operations thing, get up there, and so I sit in the car with the Crayolas and the command vests and the weather balloons and all that. But important function, don't get me wrong. But I'm usually stuck doing that. But hey, let me tell you about. I'm not telling you. Let me ask you another question, Billy.
Anyway, that's where it started in Long Island. I certainly live here in Ohio. Manhasset Lakeville is still my home. Long Island is still my home. I just returned from a week there. Caught 2 amazing jobs last week where I was actually first due. at some fires, and it's still like going home to me, and that's where I got my interest, is out in Long Island. So,
well, and obviously it was meant to be, because I tell people, when I was growing up, my dad was a firefighter before I was. I remember going to the firehouse. I can't never remember not going to the firehouse, and I remember watching him, Billy. I tell the story. My dad's a roofer, and when I used to go roofing with him, my mom would kick me out of the house because I was a pain in her ass, obviously. And my dad would take me, and I remember him coming off the roof going, "Come on, we got to go. There's a fire at the nursing home over on 9th Avenue. It's 2 blocks away." We jump in a roofing truck. We make the corner. There's smoke. He throws the rubber coat, the leather helmet on, I can hear the sirens. The troops are coming. He throws his ladder up. Everybody's screaming about this lady on the second floor. He goes up, smashes the window out back then with his helmet, and he crawls into the smoke with a cigar in his mouth, by the way, because he said he used to filter out the smoke, but this is a long time ago. And he comes out, Billy, with this little old lady on his shoulders, like a bundle of roofing shingles. And up until then, pal, it was all about the sirens, the red lights and the bells, man. The feeling, when you're little, the rig goes by you, and the ground vibrates underneath your feet, and you're like, oh my God, it's bigger than life. Right. And I looked up, Billy, and I go, that's my daddy. That's my dad. And I wanted to do that more than anything in the world. So I know, just things are meant to be, and I think that was it. It was set long before you were even put on this. This
sort of the other side of your story is my son is continuing the job now, and I'm very, very proud of him. He's a firefighter EMT, just getting ready to finish his engineer training as a driver. He'll graduate this year with his bachelor's, and he's carrying it on. My dad wasn't a firefighter, but my dad was one hell of a supporter of what I wanted to do, and he opened a lot of doors for me. So, well, speaking of supporters, and I want to get to a few things with some different things about firefighter safety and survival, but I would feel bad if I didn't ask you about him. But when you talk about supporters, and I've asked you before. I asked you when I was going to teach for you guys. I had the honor going out and doing a program for your department. What's it like working for a chief like Otto? Oh, every day is different. I'll give you a great example. As I said, I just returned from a couple of weeks on the road, and one of the events I attended was this past Sunday. Was a dear friend of mine, Ray McGuire, who's a former chief of Freeport, New York, and Ray had his 50th birthday, and they did a big surprise, and I didn't realize that they had sent a video, or they had asked a video to be recorded from my department for Ray. Well, of course, I wasn't there to participate in that, and they did this video, and in it says, "Hey, happy birthday," and Sal Casano had a video, Bobby Kahn did a video, and a number of people sent videos into congratulating Ray at this party. And then here comes happy birthday from the Loveland Sims Fire Department. It's the chief and all the guys, and Uber standing there and hooting and hollering, and then Ott goes, "Wait a minute, where's Goldfeder?" The other one goes, "Where's Goldfeder?" "Shit, where's Goldfeder?" And that's the kind of chief I'm working for. He's from Ohio, but he's definitely got some New York chop busting in him, and I love it. If you're not busting chops, and you're not having a good time, and he's a good man. Ott runs a very popular fire department in our area to our constituents. He was focused on customer service before customer service was even a word out there, and he's very, very focused on the mission of the department.
I was disappointed. I went out there. I did the program. They're great people, and I started getting into all the customer service stuff. And they go, done that, did that, we do that, we done that. I'm like,
yeah.
Well, it was pretty incredible. It was pretty neat to see someone doing all the different things and reaching out, and all the stuff that makes a difference for us.
Well, he's given me some amazing opportunities. My passion is well beyond the borders of Loveland Sims, and clearly my love for the Loveland Sims Fire Department is well documented. And I do my job there. I oversee safety. I'm involved in our training and also our volunteer company, which we have a very active volunteer company as well. But the board and specifically Chief Huber made it where I could travel a lot. I still hold my responsibilities and my rank there, but I've got a lot more I want to do in my life, and if it weren't for Chief Huber, I wouldn't be able to do that, or I wouldn't be there, one or the other. So he's a great supporter and a great fan, and look, him and I agree 95% of the time, and the 5% we don't agree, I'm not in town. So it usually works out. But we do things a little different at Loveland Sims. Our members are busy. We keep them busy. There's a lot to do. everything from checking our own hydrants to blood pressure checks to our responsibilities to the community. There's not a lot of time wasted in our department. We're also a unique department. We're probably the only department I'm aware of on this side of the Mississippi that works a 4896 tour, which may be of interest to some people as well. But it's a good place, and Chief Huber opened the door for me at a time where I needed the door open, and I'll never forget it. It's a good place to be. There's probably a few better places out there, and there's probably lots of worse places. But I think we've got a hell of a department, and he's a good boss, very, very well respected in the community. And you talk about driven and focused. I mean, you know Ott pretty well at this point. He's very driven on what's best, not only for the community, but for our guys as well. And he's able to keep a pretty good balance with that.
Well, and I can't say enough about your guys, not just because you're on the phone with at the time, but it's just they're a great group of people. They obviously, and you can't help. I mean, you can walk in departments, and my good friend and mentor Benny Crane, Chief Benny Crane from Chicago, taught me a long time ago. You could walk into a firehouse and you could take a smell, and you can tell you've got a real firehouse with real firefighters and real officers.
That's right.
And they definitely got that going with your department.
But as I said, it's not, a lot of departments, you go there and you go to sleep and you sit around and wait for the bells. That is not our department. And it's pretty clear to people when they come on board that this may not be the place you want to be, because we are doing a lot of stuff a little bit differently.
Yeah, well, hey, and let's shift gears here a little bit. And I know you do a lot of work with Gordon Graham, and he's obviously just out there bouncing around doing some great things. And I wanted to hit on the whole secret list, close calls, and the website. But while we're doing it, let's roll this all together. Billy, I don't know. We've got you mentioned something before, and I kind of go. We get into the put your face piece on. The 16 initiatives, which you and I have talked about this, Ronnie and I have talked about it, where, on the one hand, I go, I'm absolutely 100% behind doing something and making your folks toe the line and do what they're supposed to do to be safe. The 16 initiatives are great, but I like the example I use, the seatbelt. Obviously, we're still not wearing freaking seatbelts. I don't know why, but at the same time, and I mean this in a positive way, so nobody take this the wrong way. Ronnie knows where I'm coming from. I think it's lunacy that you give an award out for someone wearing their seat. If you went to church this Sunday and the pastor afterwards says, so Chief, what tell us what's going on at the fire department. He says, we got a national award this week. Oh, really? What was it? We got an award for wearing our seatbelts. I think people would look at you and go, you're kidding me. I got a traffic ticket for not wearing mine. What's it going to take? I mean, it's like you said before, it's a policy. Put your seatbelt on.
Yeah, it's
put
like
your face piece on, and again, I'm saying that in a positive way. I shouldn't say lunacy. I think, because you got to do something to reward people for doing the right thing. So other people kind of say, well, maybe that's what we ought to do, because sometimes you have to do that. But Billy, where do we go? I mean, I don't know. Are we making a difference? I mean, the injuries look like they were down a little bit, but sometimes the numbers are different. I mean, what's it going to take to get us where we need to be, buddy?
We're never going to zero it out, first of all.
No.
Let's just start with that, that firefighters sometimes have to die. And whether it's the Kevin Apuzio in East Franklin, New Jersey, the Howie Carpluck in New York City, where they're literally with a body in their hands trying to make a rescue, and sometimes we're going to die. So to say, no line-of-duty death is acceptable is ridiculous, because some are, and unfortunately that's the business we're in. What you and I are talking about right now, what Ron's talking about, are the unnecessary line-of-duty deaths.
Right.
And first of all, I don't think we're going to be able to do anything more nationally than we've already done. I think we're there. I think we're peaked out. Every resource that you could possibly want is there. So why isn't it getting through in some departments? Well, the chiefs, the officers, and the firefighters don't want it to. When they're ready to, the problem will be solved. When you have a policy in your department that if you're caught without a seatbelt, if you blow a red light without stopping, if you blow a stop sign without stopping, if you do any of the above, you will be terminated on the first offense. We will solve the problem, Rick. And people say, oh, that's bullshit. That's not fair. No, it is fair. First of all, we own the truck and you don't. It's our community. You either volunteered to work here. Now, and people say, I'm a volunteer fireman. I'll do what I want. No, you volunteered to come here and follow our rules.
Right.
Okay? Or if you're a career firefighter, this is your job. You follow the rules. It's not up to us to wear our seatbelt or not. It's not up to us to stop at a stop sign. Hell, it could be your wife, your kid, your mom, your dad in the minivan crossing the intersection, like we saw this week in Texas, and they could have struck some kid in a minivan. Something ran a red light at that incident, and it's not just the first one. We've had several. That's other than heart attack and stroke, and the solution to that is physical screening and salad. I mean, that's the solution to those things. But the issue related to vehicles, the vehicular incidents and vehicle line-of-duty deaths are the most solvable line-of-duty death. The chiefs have to get tough. The company officers have to enforce the policy. But more importantly, the members have to be educated to understand why. Being ejected sucks. Killing a kid with your apparatus sucks. Hurting your brother or sister firefighters with your own apparatus, you'll never be the same when you do that.
Oh, no.
Okay? So you don't want to do that, and that's what we have to sit down. And chiefs are loaded with budget issues right now and cutbacks and all. No question. That's an issue, but the tone has to be set. Effective, and I'll just pick on your department because I know you guys operate a lot different than most, but I'll just use Louisville. Effective Tuesday morning, 10 a.m. at the Louisville Fire Department, the following rules are in effect. You will never again run a red light without stopping and proceeding carefully once your officer and you agree it's safe to go through. You will never do that at a stop sign. You'll never operate without a seatbelt. Period. No excuses, no nothing. This is not a two-way discussion. It's one way. I'm telling you, these are the rules. As a society, we've gotten pretty soft on rules. Hell, in schools, they recognize kids just for standing on a soccer field, even if they didn't play. So that's kind of our society these days. And you asked about rewards before, rewarding people for wearing a seatbelt. It's like giving your kid $50 if they go to school. Hell, you're supposed to go to school. Oh, you got an A, there's another 50. Shit, you got an A because you're going to get an education, and there's the reward involved. So maybe I'd take a little bit of a hard line here, but how can you tell your kid they have to be in a car seat? How can you tell your kid don't drive too fast, don't drive inappropriately when they're a teenager, when then you get in the apparatus and you do 60 miles an hour, you don't wear your seatbelt, and you blow through a red light? How do you do that?
Well, and we've said it for years. If you stop at red lights, if you stop at stop signs, your chance of getting an accident. I mean, you get some clown that can still blow a light, do that. It's like backing into things or backing over somebody. How do you? To me, when you're part of a crew, how do you justify backing over somebody or backing into something? Nowadays, I'm sorry, I just don't get that. Even with the Opticoms, Billy, I'm sorry, but it's like we have Opticoms. All our intersections are Opticom control, the travel control, and whatever you have. That still doesn't give the guys the right to bus the intersection. All that is a traffic flow control device. Because people that are not paying attention, light turn green, all of a sudden it turns yellow, red. If they look down, if they're text messaging, all the distractions they have, it's still our job to be the professional drivers we tell people we are, right? I mean,
exactly. And you have a crash. Forget the horrible loss of life, or if someone's hurt or whatever. I'll tell you what. Just when you're getting through your counseling, and let's say you're the driver, the officer, and you ended up taking the life of a civilian or, God forbid, another firefighter or whatever, just when you're starting to figure out life again, you're going to get an envelope in the mail certified. You're going to have to sign for it, and now your legal stuff starts.
Yep. Which
is a whole nother layer of nightmare. And that impacts your income, that impacts your family. I mean, you got to understand that. And this is why is this so tough? Look, I love going to calls. I got 3 sirens on my car, Rick. I'm ate up with this stuff, right? And I tell people, you like blowing the siren? You tell the young driver, like blowing the sirens on the truck? Hell yeah. Well, slow down. It'll give you more siren time. I mean, what the hell, man? You got to get there. Well, why are you in such a rush to get to the fire? I want to help people. Well, that makes sense. So then get there. And getting there means using extreme caution in intersections, watching out for the little ball rolling out into the street and some kid following the ball. Because, my God, yesterday, the interest of helping the public in this crash in Texas, no doubt the brothers and sisters were wanting to do the right thing. They didn't want this crash. They didn't cause this crash. But what good were they if that had been a working fire? None at all. They never would have got there. So if our original intent is to go help people and get there to the scene quickly, when we crash, we've blown our original intent.
Well, and our good friend John Salka has said for years, and it really applies to everyone, but especially to those where you've got some firehouses in the area. You know, you want to cut down, you want to decrease your response time. Get out of firehouse quick.
Absolutely.
Work on getting out of firehouse quick. Not say where you're slipping and falling on water, all that stuff. A whole lot of things. Get out of firehouse quick. But speeding up to slow down, does nothing but wear out the brakes on the rig. I mean, some of these people, like, how do you make it to calls so quick here and there and all that stuff? You select the best route. And how many times have you seen people, the guy that blows by you in the intersection, a civilian, and you end up at like 7 lights later at the same light. It's like, Well, that did you a lot of good, didn't it, pal?
Yeah. But no, you're right. And what John says is right. Get out time is a huge issue.
Well, Billy, we used to do that. Then we used to look at the books. We used to do hitching exercises with the team of horses, and in Chicago for years, bunkroom hitch. You sit on your bed, and they hit until wheels was up to see how quick you can get out the door. I mean, I don't know.
And go even further back too, Rick. Another area to solve, and we can get back on your agenda in a minute. But another area to solve response time is dispatch processing. How long is it taking your dispatcher to process a call? We've got CAD systems out there. I used to have dispatchers could write it down on a paper and pen. They'd pull the card. They'd transmit the alarm in 30 seconds. Now with some of these CAD systems, and unfortunately in many cases are police-driven, you're looking at 2, 3, 4-minute call processing time. That's ridiculous and absolutely unacceptable. So that's one area we can improve response times are. The other is how long does it take you to get out? You go to my kid's firehouse and they get toned for a run, and they're a busy house. Get out of the way. Butchie Cobb was visiting from Jersey City a couple weeks ago. He was in my kid's firehouse. He about got run over.
What a great guy, by the way.
Yeah, absolutely. Get out of the way. And he did. And these kids get out quick. They're serious about it. So there's a lot of ways that you can get quickly to the scene without, God forbid, hurting or killing somebody. So one more quick response to you, Rick, that I had a thought before. Tip O'Neill had a book called, he was a great Massachusetts politician. He had a book called All Politics is Local. Well, I say it's the same thing in solving firefighter line-of-duty death, whether it be the IFF, the IFC, the NFF, and any of the other organizations involved in reducing firefighter injury or death. We've already done almost as much as we can do. The resources are there. It now has to be up to the fire chief, the company officer, and the firefighters at the local level to solve the problem.
But Billy, let me jump in real quick. And I know you've been frustrated with this, and I remember an incident you went through here in Dallas at an I-Chiefs conference. What's it going to take to get the elemental peers, I call them, what's it going to take to get all the different organizations? That's where the cops have us beat most of the time because they come together quite often as one unit. Billy, what's it going to take to get everybody between NIOSH, U.S. Fire Administration, NFPA, IFF, the National Volunteer Fire Council, the women, all the different groups out there? Do you ever see them truly coming together and working as one to make a difference? Or
I think the one organization, and honestly, this was one of my frustrations, as you know, for years, is we used to have a joint council years ago of fire service organizations, and it just kind of fell apart. Speaking of one voice is critical. Now, we're getting away sort of from the safety thing and more into the political, but it certainly does apply to safety. But, yeah, each of these organizations has their own constituency and their own interests. One thing we've done at the IFC, at the Safety and Health and Survival section, is, as far as I know, we're the only organization with firefighter safety as our primary agenda where every other fire service organization in the country has a seat.
There you go.
The IFC Safety, Health, and Survival section has an elected board of directors, but we also have an IFF rep on our board. We have an FDSOA rep on our board. We have an NVFC rep on our board. We have a rep from the DOD military. We have a rep from NIOSH. So we're trying to set that example, whereas the IFC is supposed to show leadership and does in many cases. But from the safety and health standpoint, the SHS, the Safety, Health, and Survival section, what we decided to do when we formed this is to create liaison seats so we all sort of are singing off the same sheet of music. It's working pretty good. It isn't perfect, but
and those are all great organizations. Don't get me wrong. I just finally, at least you're getting them to sit down together and go, let's come together on what we think will make a difference. Let's come together on what qualifies for a line of duty. Let's just talk and see where we can make a difference. Because I don't know about you, but I'll say it. I'll just call it like it is. It pisses me off sometimes to sit there and go, we've said it for years, there's no new fire. When you see somebody who's supposed to be leading the fire department encourage or make their guys do something at a fire or allow them to do something, you go, dude, what were you thinking? It wasn't just one event. There's 7 or 8 or 9 things that you did that just, pick up a magazine, go to a website. I mean, how can you be doing this stuff still?
Well, we tend to do that in the fire service. We sort of stay in our own little worlds and not aware of what's going on. So that's what we try to do at the IFC through the Safety, Health, and Survival section is to, Gordon Routley from the National Fallen Firefighters sits on our board. Tim Mariner from NIOSH sits on our board. Rich Duffy from the IFF sits on our board, and so on and so forth. So at least by doing that, with them participating on our monthly conference calls or in our email chains and our 2 annual board meetings, or 2 biannual board meetings we have each year, at least we're not duplicating efforts. At least the right hand knows what the left hand is doing. So we're making some progress. So
well, and Billy, between the 60 initiatives, and I know NIOSH is doing some great stuff too. I mean, all the groups, I think we are starting to see some headway a little bit. But now we touched on, and we're kind of bouncing around with some of the causes and some of the biggies. We put your face piece on. Like I said, I was very open. I'm very, very embarrassed that I was one of those people. I am no longer one of those people. You will see me with my face piece on. If I'm going into a burning building, unless someone could tell me that all levels, everything's okay, and so on and so forth. And this hydrogen cyanide stuff is sneaky shit, man. It's hard to test for it. I think, Billy, if we went back and looked at some of these people, that don't have heart disease in their family, that look like they were in shape, that were 28 or 32 or 42 years old, that dropped dead after a fire, I think if you got the blood and you tested this stuff right away, I think you may find some of the stuff that you, and I know Chief Halton's been talking about.
I was going to say, Bobby Halton's done a lot on this.
Yeah. But all right, we talked about that. We're talking about driving. And I know it's hard to come up with a top 10 list. We talked about this, but some of the other things, is it size up? Is it we're not bringing enough water?
Sure.
I mean, we
right
got the heart attack and stress. Billy, you talked about wellness initiatives, eat more salads. We talked about stopping at intersections and stop lights, stop signs, and not speeding and not backing in, without a backer. Wearing your air pack. What else, buddy, jumps out at you that we can tell
fires.
people listen?
You got to. There's 2 parts of a size up, and a year ago, when FDIC had their first online internet FDIC Online, when they did that, they asked me to kick off that program, and I did something on size up. And there's 2 sizes to size up. There's sizing up what you got, which has got to include, let's do a single-family dwelling, for example. You got to understand what you got. Where's the fire? Where was it? Where's it going? What's my water supply? Et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. Identifying your fire problem and all that. But then the other side of the size up, Rick, is, all right, well, now what resources do I have right now, and what resources do I have on the way to deal with that? And what we're seeing is on dwelling fires, for example, fire departments are arriving with a 30 firefighter mentality with only 10 firefighters. Well, you can't do that. You can't do that. It's just a mathematical impossibility for you to successfully operate at a fire which would require 30 firefighters when you've only got 10. And what's got to be understood by the chiefs and the officers is, especially in these tough times, Rick, when we're cutting budgets and cutting staffing, shutting down stations, the fire chief has an absolute obligation to stand up and make it clear to the mayor, make it clear to council, and make it clear to the constituency that we can't deliver what you expect. We can't do a 30 firefighter fire with 10 firefighters.
Right.
And that's as critical a part of the size up as anything else. If we have enough firefighters, we can then get ahead of the fire and have a much greater chance of saving that taxpayer, of saving that property, whatever the case may be. But size up is huge. It's huge. And a part of that is the 360 walk around on a dwelling fire. Case study after case study after case study. Pick up something, anything in your office and look at it. Well, you can only see one side of that. When you turn it around, you can see the whole thing. Well, that's what size up is. You've got to look at the whole thing to understand what you're dealing with before we just go running in there. So, to me, size up is huge.
Well, and again, there's so many people out there, and I feel for them too when they tell you that they've only got, it's not as much the guys, as you said. It's people out there. Hell, I believe the Green Book, the Managing the Fire Service, the ICMA book talks about staffing. It's kind of funny. I've got a March 1969 issue, Fire Engineering Magazine, and the editor's opinion, Billy, is more firefighters, not less.
Right.
1969. He says, forcible entry, ventilation, search and rescue. These are the minimal jobs that confront a ladder company that rise in front of the building. He gets into this whole thing. We grant that not all the manpower dispositions given above will handle to be made at every fire. But he even says back then, we also recognize that a 6-man ladder company is not enough for the first stages of many fires. And he lists, this is back, how long have we been fighting forever?
You go back to Macinus' book in the 50s and 60s and stuff, you'll see the same thing. And the young listeners listening to the show going, wow, that's great information. All we're doing is telling you stories from years ago. This is nothing new. And I'm not saying that 10 people on a first alarm can't have an impact. I'm just saying that if your size up gives you enough tasks for 30 firefighters, you can't do that.
How many people does it take, Billy? 2-story single-family dwelling, Loveland Sims. All right? Address that. Fire on the second floor. I'm going to give you a fire on the second floor. No, fire on the first floor, 2 o'clock in the afternoon, nobody outside tell you whether anybody's home or not.
We're sending you 30 people on the first alarm, and only half of those are coming from my on-duty staffing. Chief Huber, a couple of years ago, developed a program working with some area fire chiefs with what we call aggressive first alarm assignments. And our rule is pretty simple. If it's an automatic alarm, you get 1 engine, 1 truck, 1 chief. If you smell something but don't see anything, you get 2 engines, a quint, a ladder, and a chief. If you see something, if you see smoke, you see fire, you're getting our entire department. You're getting 2 engines mutual aid, you're getting a truck mutual aid, you're getting an ambulance mutual aid. A very aggressive first alarm. And we're alerting 5 chiefs to respond. Not only our chiefs, but we're alerting neighboring chiefs to go as well. We really want to get ahead of the fire. We've had a couple good success stories so far. People say, well, you're bothering all these neighboring departments for a nonsense call. No, somebody called up and said they saw something. That's good enough for us. Well, and we're not bothering anybody.
What do you do, Billy, with the departments? I've got one near me that the chief himself told me, we have 2 different philosophies on fighting fires, and you like calling everybody else in to clean up your mess. We believe in doing it ourselves. And I go, no, you believe in beating your guys to death on the front lawn. They come out. Same thing. You report a fire here. You get 2 engines, a quint, a ladder, an ambulance, and a battalion chief's driver, all fully staffed. And if it's a worker, you get more, and you get more chiefs. And we go to a sec alarm, Billy, pretty quick. We drop the hammer pretty quick. If it's 95 degrees or greater, it's a working fire as a sec alarm because you got your whole rest of your shift left. If it's all hands, everyone's working, you go to a second. That's 2 more engines, another quint. That's 2 more ambulances, 2 more chiefs from here. Besides rehab and command, and that's a mutual aid tower ladder, mutual aid chief, mutual aid engine with a chief, and a mutual aid air unit with a chief. We hammered. If we go to a third, it's a big deal. But to have a chief who's been on the job for a while sit there and tell you that, I'm shaking my head going, I wish I could tape record you and you hear, what's wrong? Right?
There's nothing.
What's wrong with bringing up people?
Right. All you can do is take care of it. Well, they're afraid they're going to have a crash going to the fire. Well, teach them how to drive. Don't blow intersections. Rick, one of the things we realized that we understood we were not sending enough people to fires. So we sat down, we used the ISO guide to fire flow. We calculated really what we will need, how many lines we'll typically want, what we want to vent, we want a hydrant firefighter, we want to search. This is all calculable. There's no emotion involved in this. But the bigger step we took is adding what we call mini IMAT teams, sending enough chiefs on that first alarm to manage it. Now, when I say first alarm, I'm talking about somebody sees a fire, and the dispatcher knows 95% of the time if you're going to go to work or not. They got that information. And what we did is we're sending enough firefighters at this point, and we're pretty pleased with that. We have no hesitation striking a second. We had a condo fire about a month ago. I could see it from my house, and the duty chief, the district chief, saw it as he left. We struck the second alarm before we even got there. So we have no problem with that. But our bigger issue was, who's going to manage all these people when we get there? And we don't want to pull a captain off an engine or truck to be like ops. We don't want to pull a captain off an engine or truck to be the rear officer. We don't want any of that. So we want them staying with their crew. If we assign Tower 61 to the second floor, we want that crew staying together. So who's reading the smoke in the back? Who's doing accountability? Who's the command support aide? We don't have a driver for our chiefs like you do. Who's doing each of the sides? And we realize, we've got these untapped resources. Excuse me. And these are the neighboring chiefs. So we tap out, and they tap out for us as well. On a first alarm reported fire, you get additional chief officers to help you with accountability, to help you with safety, to help you with operations.
And there's nothing wrong with that.
Oh, it's played out so well. And Rick, why do these people join? They want to go to calls.
Well, here's the thing. It took a while. We had some guys here that they were used to just the battalion chief running everything, and why do I need? Nobody's babysitting you per se. I want guys there. First chief, you got command, next role that gets filled as operations, then it's sector C, the back of the building, then it's safety, and then we start sticking people inside. There's times we've had 7, 8 chief officers there, and we'll put every one of them to work. And it's just the eyes, the ears, like you said, there are still chiefs, a lot of chiefs that have all the initials after their title that take the captain off of a rig and send the firefighters in,
Now, who's supervising that? I mean, you send some kid in there. They know that crew better than anybody.
They gave you a fire car. They gave you a fire car. And that's part of it. That's just, Billy, that is. It's frustrating. And now this area here, with the exception of this one community, I'm telling you, buddy, I am so proud. You've been here. You've met my guys. You've done a talk for us. You were here on our 50th anniversary, 9/11. And, you can't tell. We can go to Flower Mound. We can go to Highland Village. We can go to Lake Cities where Curtis is, the Colony, Little Elm, Coppell, Grapevine, any of these. And you can't tell the players without a scorecard.
And that's what we've done. Our area, this northeast quarter, Cincinnati, between us, Blue Ash, Deerfield, Sycamore, Sharonville, I think Miami.
But that's, Billy, that's the first thing. When I went to dinner with your chief and some neighboring chiefs, that's the first thing they went off on, and they were so damn proud of the fact of how they all work together. Instead of going, well, we have to. No, I'm telling you, Billy, it was one of the first things that jumped out the dinner table was, well, we go do this for them, they come do this. It was so cool to see forward-thinking people.
And it's cool. I mean, our trucks are red and white, Sycamores are green, Deerfields are red, Hamilton Townships are red and black, Montgomery's are blue and white. I mean, you go to one of our fires, it looks like Skittles.
You got the whole horn of plenty there.
Yeah, but we're operating under one command structure. Everybody understands the rules. We're getting ready to enact some new policies and procedures. Where we have a big meeting coming up in May where we're going to establish one set of SOPs for the fire ground. So every department's going to be running in this area together. So we're making progress, and it can be done. You got to sometimes put the egos aside.
It's the leadership, right, buddy? It's saying this is what we're going to do.
The coaches want to do this with the team. The team will pretty much do what the coaches tell them to.
I mean, what firefighter doesn't want to go to? If you're in this business and you don't want to go to a fire.
That's all I want to do.
You know what I'm saying? I mean, what's wrong with working with each other? And here's the thing that I was amazed with this one individual was, the fighting of the fire is, that's fun, but that's a very small part of what we do from the time we get there to the time we leave. Yeah, we all have to do overhaul. We all have to do some clean. Well, you know what I'm saying? The less, if you will, glamorous stuff. But if you're into this job, if you're into it for everything, not just, I mean, anybody could sign up. Everybody wants to get up and hit with the bases loaded, nobody out. But who wants to get up with 2 strikes? Yeah. You know what I'm saying? I mean, come on. I mean, there's a lot of work that has to be done. But so we're talking air packs, we're talking driving, we're talking wellness initiatives, we're talking size up, working together. Apparatus, gear. Let's talk. We're getting closer around out of time, but let's talk about, Billy, your emphasis or what are your feelings on training in the fire service? I mean, just train. What?
To me, it's simple. I mean, I saw a quote from Gordon Graham and I. We do firefighterclosecalls.com, and I know you mentioned him earlier.
A great guy.
Gordon and I met years ago at a sleepover at Michael Jackson's house. Gordon and I go way, way back. When I first discovered the Internet, I started sending information out to people. And over time, this little list grew and grew and grew. Of course, it's called the secret list. And
the worst-kept secret.
180-something thousand readers at last count. And it's kind of insane. And Gordon approached me and said, well, why don't you start a website? About 7 years ago we did. We started firefighterclosecalls.com. We average about 500,000 unique hits a month and about 4 million hits a month. And it really is just taken off. It's insane. And that's our giving back. And, well, that ties right into what you just said. That's training. We accept no advertising. We take no money from anybody. There's nothing commercial about our site. It's pure information for firefighters. And our goal is to keep the stuff in your face. And I think probably the best thing you can do in training, Rick, and for officers listening to our discussion today, is, to me, the best way to minimize the injury and death is through keeping this stuff in their faces every day. And that's what we try and do with FirefighterCloseCalls.com and our newsletter, The Secret List, is to, when it happens, we get it out, people forward it, people post it. I saw a quote also, Brian Kazmierzak, I think you know Brian.
Yeah.
He's our operations director for FirefighterCloseCalls.com, and Brian has a quote. I don't remember who the quote is from, but Brian changes quotes on his emails from time to time, and it says, how can you not train for a job that could kill you at any time?
Oh, and absolutely.
It's a great quote. And every day is a training day. And then today you can do, clearly hands-on is critical, but today just a little bit of training can be done 5 minutes a day by just going to the Internet.
Well, Billy, I've told people time and time again, whether it's out in the program or just visiting on the phone on the show, is make FirefighterCloseCalls.com, make FireEngineering.com, make that your morning newspaper.
Absolutely.
It pops up. I boot up my computer. They pop up. Those are the first things I go to during the day. It's kind of addicting. It's kind of scary. I'm kind of hooked. And
well, you're supposed to be. You're responsible for how many guys you got in Louisville?
Oh, we got 157.
All right, so you're responsible for 157 boys and girls. So if you're not looking at what happened yesterday somewhere else, so you can pass that on to your folks, then you're not doing your job. That's kind of what we have to do. Whether you're a probationary firefighter or you're chief of department, you got to pass it on, and that's what we do with Firefighter Close Calls. All we're doing is passing it on and trying to share information. So to answer your question, Rick, training. Every day. I don't do as much hands-on training as I used to when I was on the engine company or when I was on a truck. But like we had the flashover simulator in a few weeks ago, I was down there. I love it, having a ball, getting in there with the gang. We do. I attend at least 2 drills a month with our companies, as well as with our volunteer company because they do their night training. So even me at this old age, as they say, as long as you're still going to fires, you still be participating in training. Otherwise, you're
never too old to train.
Yeah.
You're never too good to train.
Yeah.
Like Leo Stapleton said years ago when he was speaking before me at FDIC, when our theme at FDIC, Billy, if you remember, when we chose Back to the Basics, he got out there and he says, back to the basics. I saw this year's theme as Back to the Basics. He goes, why did we leave them in the first place?
Right.
They're really not that good. Actually, we kind of suck at them.
Yeah.
And why training? Why you're not doing something every day, just reading, looking, pick something up, get better at this profession every day. I'm going to hit you with... Go ahead.
Rick, you have to hide to not get some training every day.
There's some that are good. There's some that are good, but you're right.
It's all over you. It's on the Internet. You have FireEngineering.com, any of the other magazines.com, FirefighterClose.com, IFF.com, IFCSafety.com. It's all over the place. You have to hide to not get some training.
And to say you're waiting on the training chief to drop the drill book off for you is just a very poor excuse.
Come on.
That's your bonus.
Forrest Reeder, who's one of the best drill masters in the country, handles our weekly fire drills for us at Firefighter Close Calls.
Forrest is with the Pleasant View Fire Protection District on the southwest side of Chicago.
Yeah. There's 500 downloadable drills on our site, Rick. It won't cost you a nickel. So anybody that doesn't want to train is trying to not. If you're not training, it's because you're trying to.
You're trying not to train. Yeah. Hey, we've been visiting with Chief Billy Goldfeder. Billy, I want to pick a final question here for you, buddy, and I know, and this I think is going to be a good one for you. Not difficult at all, but I think it's going to be chock full of some good stuff. We're right now, you and I, sitting backstage, and you've got an auditorium full of brand new firefighters, young, eager men and women, outstanding. They just can't wait. It's when your kid was starting. It's mine. You know what I'm saying? What do you say? What does Chief Billy Goldfeder say? What would you say to those young firefighters to keep them healthy, safe? What would be your push to them, buddy?
It's probably twofold, Rick. One, if you love the job, then why wouldn't you want to keep doing it as long as possible? So that ties into the health and safety.
That should be in a frame somewhere. Think about that. That's a great statement.
That's absolutely. I say it every time I talk. If you love this job, why wouldn't you want to do it as long as possible? And what happens though when we're young and full of piss and vinegar, we feel like we will because we're okay, we're safe. Nothing happened to me yet. I'm going to save the world kind of thing. And when you get older, you're like, well, nothing's happened to me yet so far. But as you get a little older and wiser, you learn. And as you get older, you start to think of what's important. So then I tell them about whose pictures are in my wallet or in my helmet. And, of course, you being one of my closest friends, you're well aware of my grandson, Henry.
Oh, yeah.
And who's going to be at his first FDIC this year, by the way. He's going to be attending with me, and I cannot wait. His mom will only let him go for one day, which I think is ridiculous, but that's her decision. And Henry is important to me. And my goal right now, Rick, in my life, is to be able to get a call one day from Henry, him telling me him and his wife are going to make me a great-grandpa.
Oh.
So I just became a grandpa myself 8 months ago when Henry was born, and it's a hell of a blessing. So my next goal is for him to call me that I'm going to be a great-grandpa, like my mom is a great-grandma. So I'm pretty excited about that. Well, you know what? I can't eat cheesesteaks every day and expect to accomplish that. I can't drive like an idiot and expect to accomplish that. I can't breathe the crap smoke that we have today and expect to accomplish that. So I have to do things that I can control to accomplish that goal. Now, what happens when I talk to the young firefighters, and I show them my pictures of Henry and my family and all that, they don't relate because they don't have kids yet, but they do have a niece, they do have a nephew, they have an older brother, they have a younger brother, somebody cares. They say I love you to somebody at night, or at the Christmas table, or at Thanksgiving, or this coming 4th of July or Memorial Day. When you get together with the people you love and you sit back and say, this is a great day, well, why the hell wouldn't you want to keep doing that for as long as possible as well? So that's my message, is think about who you impact. I mean, you think you're going to be fine, so you're not going to wear your hood, you're not going to wear your mask. But you know what? I can show you 80,000 firefighters a year who've been injured because of that kind of thing.
Yeah.
And so when we realize there's 100 fatalities or so a year, that does not seem like a big number with over 1 million firefighters. But when you look at almost one-tenth of us getting hurt critically, then we realize it does hit home. When we look at the cancer numbers and we see 1,000 firefighters killed every year, active running firefighters from cancer, then we start thinking. That's what I think about, Rick, is, I mean, we're all going to go someday, but then I think I want to be around for my kids as long as possible. I want to be around with Amy, my daughter, and her husband, and her son, Henry, my grandson, as long as I can. My daughter, Danny, is getting ready to graduate their master's in special ed. She's going to teach autistic kids, special ed kids. When I visit her in the classroom, I beam and I get emotional. My son, Brian, is a firefighter. Same thing. He'll call me up. Hey, Dad, I just did this, or we just had that job, or did you see that job on our pager? I love this stuff. My wife, Terry. I mean, all this stuff. I love this stuff. I don't want to stop. I'm not ready to stop. Now, God willing, I'll be able to keep going as long as possible. But if you love this so much, then why wouldn't you want to do it as long as possible?
Well, and that makes perfect sense, buddy. That's it. I mean, why wouldn't you? I think, I think there's sometimes it's being selfish. It doesn't take just having kids for someone sometimes to sit up and go, I've got responsibilities now. How would you explain to them? You walked home. If you were able to explain to them, and they said, Daddy or Mommy, why didn't you do this or why didn't you do that? What would be your answer? Billy, you and I have talked about this a ton of times before. The coolest, best-looking firefighter out there is one that's alive. I mean, what is it going to take to be there? If you're not visiting, if you're not supporting the National Fallen Fires Foundation with Ron and with everything going on with that group, then you're missing a boat there. If you're not going to firefighterclosecalls.com, another thing. I mean, between what the foundation's doing with Ron Sarnicki, with the chief, with Chief Goldfeder, you're just missing things. Billy, before we go, if somebody wanted to get a hold of you, we've already, firefighterclosecalls.com is the one website, but if they wanted to zip you an email, or if they want, what's the best way for someone to get a hold of you if they want to talk to Chief Billy Goldfeder?
It's at firefighterclosecalls.com and just click on Contact Us, or send me an email at chgold151@aol.com. But the easiest way to remember is just go to firefighterclosecalls.com and click there. Or look for us hanging out at FDIC, which is coming up in a few weeks. It's where we all go get our batteries charged annually, and I cannot wait, and it's especially exciting for me because Henry's making his first FDIC. I'm so excited, and my son Brian's coming in. He's a firefighter, so we're going to have a great time together.
Wouldn't that be cool to be sitting years from now talking, going, do you remember we were talking about him making his first FDIC, and now he's a student?
Yeah, absolutely.
Wouldn't that be cool?
Yep, and then what we'll do is we'll confuse each other by dropping our teeth in the wrong cup or something.
Hey, you know what? I'm gonna steal a quote here to close things out from Billy and Gordon's site here with firefighterclosecalls.com, and it's every day is a training day. You folks, I mean, I appreciate everything you're doing for us and for being a great listener and spreading the word. We're getting a ton of feedback. I know Billy does with his show through the smoke. Just Billy, I can't thank you enough, brother. I can't. We've been visiting with Chief Billy Goldfeder from the Loveland Sims Fire Department in Ohio and among everything else. Again, Billy, this has been incredible. I wish we had like 2 or 3 more. Well, actually, we had more than 2 or 3 more hours, pal.
I mean, do it again sometime. Anytime.
Would you be willing to come back on again, and we can get into this again and keep going with it? All right, brother. Well, thank you. I love you, pal. Thanks for everything you do. Hey, Billy, and what you're doing for the fire service, and I've told you this before, and you're a very humble guy, but absolutely, when people talk about the movers and shakers and who's having an impact on the fire service as a whole, one of the names that jumps up there every single time is Chief Billy Goldfeder. Billy, you're incredible. You're a brother, and you're definitely making a difference in the lives of the men and women of the fire service. Thank you, pal.
You're very kind. Thank you. Take care.
All right, Billy. Hey, as we always say when we end this show, we end it with 2 words. But before we do that, please, if you have any information, if you have any ideas, shoot us an email. You can get a hold of me at rick@prideandownership.com. You can get a hold of us if you want to run something up the flagpole. We've had some great ideas from you before. We try to do as much as we can with you. We've got some great folks on some future shows. You can pull them up if you just go to more podcasts. You can pull up all the past shows with all the great folks we've had on the show. This one, I think, is going to be hit tens of thousands of times with Chief Goldfeder. But like I said, as we end everything, 2 very, very, very important words: be safe.